What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, some big factors involved in the markets, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moonmoon, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, and the offerings in just 2 weeks. Anyways, now I want to talk about what's happening with the markets. Looking at NIO, we got this nice little bounce to break all the way up to this $5 area. And since then, it's been kind of getting tighter and tighter and tighter within this range. But if we keep getting this push up, I'm going to be expecting a test of $5. If we reject right here, we're going to be coming back down to continue to consolidate. But this consolidation phase could still lead to another breakout later on because we're forming a very, very nice looking cup and handle like structure and also a nice accumulation. So NIO is looking more bullish from a technical standpoint. But we're going to see if this continues to consolidate a bit longer before we get a breakout or if we just break out from here. So I'll break down more details about this in just a couple of minutes. As a reminder, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, July 17th. There's not really much coming out again. We just have some housing data and Barkin giving a speech, some manufacturing numbers before the market opens. And then after market open, there's not really any data that's too significant until we get the bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. and then 1 p.m. We have the bond auction. Then we have the Fed beige book, which is also very minor. So all the data tomorrow is very minor. There's nothing too crazy that's affecting the markets. For earnings, we just have ASML and Johnson Johnson, not to mention United and Discover. Very, very minor earnings coming out for tomorrow. For today, we just had Interactive Brokers, which wasn't anything too significant. So if you actually look at this, EPS was a beat. Revenue was also a nice beat as well. And we also saw customer accounts increasing 28% with equity increasing by 36%. So this is actually a little bit green in the after hours. Not bad from their earnings. As far as NIO goes, NIO announced its 50th power swap station in Europe. Once again, this opened in Norway, and this is more bullish news. This is actually next to a very, very significant landmark, which is their commitments to developing in, once again, a European infrastructure that supports smooth travel for every NIO user. This is very, very great news as well as to continue to expand in Europe and get a lot more growth. Sure, in Europe, there are, tariffs that are increasing, which is not the best of news. But it doesn't really worry me because I do see a lot of potential in NIO to continue to build up and actually meet up with demand. I'm also starting to see more signs of expansion, especially in China and Europe. This is still a good sign. So as long as they maintain this and battery costs are dropping, other margins could improve, which could once again help them get closer to profitability. On top of this, when it comes to their insurance registrations, we got about 3,400 for last week, which is not bad whatsoever for NIO. Once again, we're seeing nice amounts of insurance registrations, and this is once again a good sign that their sales are continuing to kind of like maintain these higher structures. So what generally happens, at least historically, is during this period, as you approach week 30, we do see a little decrease in NIO sales, only for it to increase again by the end of the month. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see another little decrease, a little stall in sales before it starts to increase again. That's going to be very important as well towards the end of this month. Volume was at about 50 million, so very close to average. It's still kind of pumped on that volume. Short volume is decreasing, so that's actually a good sign for NIO. And Bank of America Securities is still maintaining a neutral rating. Price risk ratio is kind of flat, not really doing much, and we'll have to see how things end up progressing from here. Wednesdays are also known for being green about 56% of the time, so we'll see what kind of shifts we get as we're seeing more volatility. At 1 o'clock p.m., we tend to see more volatility, not to mention the final hour of the day. So we'll see how things go for NIO. But what is my opinion on the share price? I want to give you guys an analysis. I think we're looking more bullish for NIO, and there are two possibilities. Possibility number one is that we might do something like this, where if we do get a rejection right here, we just consolidate for a little bit longer, and then later on going into next week, that's when we get this breakout all the way up here off this nice cup and handle like structure. So that would imply if we do reject here, we might consolidate a bit before the breakout, or we might not even consolidate anymore. This could just be getting ready to break out from here if we break the structure. It depends on how we end up testing this $5 area. If we break through that, then we could be looking for 5.26 very, very soon. So I do see a big push coming to about 5.26 plus, all the way up to where our imbalance happens to be. We have a nice accumulation. We have a cup and handle like structure, but I'm going to be watching to see, do we consolidate a little bit longer in this pennant before we get a breakout into the fives? Or do we just break out from here? Watch for that going into tomorrow. Either way, we're either going to consolidate a little bit longer and then break out, or break out from here is the most likely possibilities. NIO is gaining a lot of momentum. I also want to call out that SPY is looking more bullish. When you actually, I'm going to zoom out for 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm going to zoom in using a smaller time frame. So when you look at the chart like this, you will notice that we actually have a bullish wedge that's been forming right over here. You guys can see it's been continuing to uptrend. This is actually forming higher highs and higher lows. We also broke the all-time high again towards the end of the day. So this is suggesting we're going to be looking for a push for 566. And if that breaks, I'll be looking for a push all the way up to 567.5. Then eventually we'll get very close to 569. That's another key Fibonacci extension. So looking at the Fib extensions, I think there's a good chance we're going to continue to climb higher. SPY remains bullish from a technical standpoint. I will turn more bearish if we lose 560, but that's looking less likely. We're continuing to get bought up very, very nicely. For Tesla, Tesla is in a very, very strange place right now. We had made an attempt to break out of this channel that Tesla's been in, but there's no confirmation quite yet if we're officially going to break out. So I'll be watching to see if Tesla retraces back down to get a little back test right here tomorrow. And if we get a bounce, then this could continue to form an inverse head and shoulders and start pushing up higher like this. That's the more bullish case. The bearish case would be us basically breaking down and we end up losing support right here. If we fail to hold 250, then yes, we will continue this downtrend and structure like this. I have seen both of these play out, but I'm kind of leaning a bit more in this direction that where it might just kind of dip right here and then try to rebound. That's looking a bit more probable to me as we could be forming an inverse head and shoulders. So I'll be watching to see how we end up opening tomorrow to see if Tesla gets a nice bounce or not. So just to be safe, wait and see, watch for confirmation just to be as open-minded as possible. You always want to be open-minded to these different contingencies. For Nvidia, we're kind of dipping a little bit. We have a nice downtrend that's being respected, and this is actually looking kind of weak to me. We also happen to have a head and shoulders like structure, so I think this is going to be testing 125. If we fail to hold 125 or close below that, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 121. So I'll be watching to see if Nvidia rejects. Watch resistance also at 127. If that breaks, look for 129. But this chart favors downside a little bit more. Bitcoin is on a rip right now. This does favor upside. It's been continuing to uptrend very, very nicely. Might dip and retest previous support around the 64,000 area, but if we bounce here, we could continue higher. So I'm seeing some potential for this to push even higher than before. For the QQQ, we are once again in the middle. We're just stuck very, very close to this key area. I think that there's a very, very good chance that this may consolidate a little bit longer. It's not looking that great. It might dip a little bit to retest and grab liquidity in the 495 area and try to rebound. But I think it's just going to remain range bound. As you guys can see, it's been stuck in this range, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back. So I think it might continue to just range trade for some time because tech is looking more lackluster as we look at like Nvidia and the others. Apple has a little bit of potential to try to rebound to about 235, but it might just consolidate. Not looking as strong as before. I think we're going to see some consolidation. If we were to lose 232, I'd turn more bearish, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're just going to consolidate for now. And then we have other stocks out there. If you look at like Super Micro, we're looking a little bit more bearish. I could be looking for a retest of about 867, then a bounce and some sideways price action. I'm seeing some weakness developing nonetheless. A lot of money is flowing into the IWM, looking very bullish, testing 225. If we do get a little dip, we could retest 220 and then bounce and continue higher, or it might just continue from here. But either way, looks very bullish. I think that 240 plus is coming very soon, and the chart is once again looking pretty good. AMD looks a little bit more bearish. We could be dipping a little bit lower towards about 174 all over again, so not the best of moves. Coinbase is breaking out with Bitcoin. We're actually above this support. Look for a test of 247 for this bounces. Look for even higher levels as we have a nice double bottom. 247 and a bounce is looking a lot more favorable in my personal opinion. For Amazon is showing some weakness. We actually touched our 200 EMA and kind of rejected here. We could be retesting 193 and then rejecting, starting to dip back down towards 191. So watch for that very, very carefully. For Meta, we're also on a bit of a downtrend right over here. I think we could be retesting 485 if that fails. So we're going to be dipping down to 478. So I'm seeing a risk of a little bit more downside. For Microsoft, we're also on a bit of a downtrend right here. We're actually going to be looking at 449. If this rejects, we'll be dipping back down towards 447. I'm seeing a little bit of weakness on Microsoft. Same thing with Google. So a lot of big tech names are slowing down. If you look at Google, we have a slanted head and shoulders. I think this does have a risk of kind of dipping a little bit. We might retest 186 and we'll see if this rejects or not. Might bounce first and we'll see if we get a rejection, but the trend is still more bearish on Google. So what's happening in the markets is a lot of money in tech is outflowing and going into the small caps. The small caps and also a lot of finance sectors out there. So a lot of financials are actually starting to build some strength, not to mention tech is slowing down, but the small caps and the IWM and the Russell 2000, those are the ones that are running and carrying the market in a different way. The reason why the S&P 500 is actually outperforming the Nasdaq is because it's tech that's shifting in a different way, and financials are helping to carry the market in a different way from before. That's why they're weighted very differently, and this is part of why the S&P 500 is holding up. So it's not being held as well by like the Apples out there, by the Nvidias. It's more like financials and other sectors like that are actually helping it a little bit more. So with that being said, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. As far as NIO goes, there's going to likely be more upside coming. I think that we're going to be breaking past 5.25, but we'll see if we consolidate a bit first. We could consolidate a little bit longer before we get the breakout, or we could break out from here. So watch what the reaction is. We'll see if we consolidate for a bit in this pen before we break out, or if we just break above 5, then that's your confirmation. This is going to just start pushing much higher from here. But it looks bullish from a technical standpoint, so we'll see how things go. With that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.